Hello, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Thursday, the 30th of June. We're already at the end of the month. I was reading in our Daily Bread a little passage that was from the 26th of June, and it was written by Ann Cetus. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she talks about this dog whose owner, Russell, had broken his ankle. And the dog, and Russell was using crutches to walk. And his dog, Billy, began to limp. Now, when he was by himself, he could run and there was no limp. But when he was with his owner walking on the crutches, Billy would limp. And that sort of sense of that kind of compassion, of entering into things. And the article goes on to talk about the importance of coming alongside someone. That it's important to recognize that not always, sometimes it is, but not always is it appropriate for us to come into a situation and say, well, this will make you feel better. Or have you done this? Have you tried praying? Have you read the Psalms? Have you had a cup of tea? Have you had a good sleep? These things will all make you feel better. Sometimes we just need to enter into the space with another person and be where they are. That takes a great friendship, though, because to be where someone else is when they're in an uncomfortable place is automatically, by definition, uncomfortable. And how many of us really like being uncomfortable? It's kind of the point, isn't it? We want to get out of being uncomfortable and into being comfortable. We want to leave behind the tough stuff and enter into the easier stuff. But sometimes we have to be in the tough stuff. Sometimes we have to just sit like Job, just sit and be and receive what is, even if it's kind of crappy. I remember, I think I've talked about this before, but being in my clinical placement as a student and having to be in a hospital ward where everybody was going to be living there. They weren't going to go home. And the other students decided we were going to put on a play and we were going to do Job. And that really made me uncomfortable. But the greatest learning from that time period, that clinical placement for me, was actually having to struggle with and stay there in that difficult situation because of the play. I felt like an absolute hypocrite asking people who were in wheelchairs, people who had brain injuries, people who were never going to go home to live where they used to live, who for them the hospital was going to be their home until they died, to say to them, let's put on a play and we're going to talk about Job, the most, probably one of, if not the most depressing stories in the whole Bible. A man whose whole life, his children, his crops, his family, everything taken away from him on basically a dare between God and Satan. I don't want to get into the theology of that, but just the idea that here's Job and he's in this space and he can't get out of it. There's nothing that he can do for himself to get himself out of this space except just be there. And then all of these people coming up and telling, well, if you'd just been more faithful about this, if you'd been better about this, then this wouldn't be a problem. And Job's thing is, I'm here. I'm here. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't hurt anybody. I never blasphemed against God, and yet here I am, seemingly being punished by God, and here I am. And he railed against God a little bit, and there was some back and forth. And I think that teaches us it's okay to do that, that when we find ourselves like Job sitting in the ash heap of life, there's nothing that says we have to be happy with it. It's not, there's nothing that says, this is your lot in life. You need to be like, rejoice and be glad in it. It's okay to be grumpy. It's okay to say, why the bleep am I here? Like, why do I have to be right here on this ash heap when things are so crappy? Sometimes we just have to wait. There's nothing we can actually do to undo the crappiness. But isn't it a little bit easier to wait sometimes when someone can come and join us? Not come and tell us what we can do to fix the problem, because we've probably already figured out there's nothing we can do, or we would have done it, right? But sometimes it's good just to have someone like Russell's dog Billy, who comes along and just sort of participates in it with us, who just sits down or limps as we walk with our crutches, who doesn't tell us how to get better, doesn't tell us what we've done wrong or how we could fix it, doesn't say, just wait, the sun will come up tomorrow, but just says, hey, so this is where we are. Okay. For a lot of people right now, life is not easy. Whether it's the economy, gas is so expensive. And of course, when gas goes up, then the cost of getting food to grocery stores goes up, which means the grocery stores put the cost of food up. The economy is hitting us all hard. I doubt if there's anybody who would argue with that we're all, the penny doesn't quite go as far as it used to. And as a matter of fact, in Canada, we don't have any pennies anymore. The nickel doesn't quite go as far as it used to. And that's hard. We are asked to do things in our workplaces that are difficult. And sometimes we don't want to do them. And we understand that. There are things that in our lives, our relationships, our friendships, that maybe aren't going the way we want them to. That maybe life is happening. Maybe we've had loss in our lives, loss of, someone has died or moved away, or we are moving away, or something's happened to our physical well-being that there's nothing that we can do about. And we find ourselves just sitting like Job in that ash heap, thinking, if I knew what I could do, I would do it. But recognizing that right now, there is nothing I can do. But when that happens, we can be open to others coming and waiting with us. Or if we see that that's happening to someone else, we can go and wait with them. Not go and give advice. Not go and say, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, then this will get better. But just go and sit. Or like Russell limping with his crutches, be like Billy the dog and pick up a limp. That kind of compassion, that empathy of entering into with someone, not to fix it, but simply to be present with them in it, can be very powerful. We need to be alongside others, and we need others to be alongside us, not to fix it. If they could, that would be great, but sometimes it's not fixable. Sometimes we just need someone to be with us, to give us hope, to give us companionship, to help us know we're not alone. Jesus is always with us. He is our companion on the journey, and whether we realize it to the depth of the truth that it is, as a Christian, Jesus has walked that lonely place. He has been in that Garden of Gethsemane where no one stayed awake with him, where he realized he had to just sit right there. That this time would eventually pass, but in this moment, he had to exist in it. We all have our Garden of Gethsemanes. The question is, how do we sit in it? How do we get through it, if indeed we can get through it? Less thinking, maybe sometimes, less thinking about the future and how do we get from point A where we are to point B where we want to be. Sometimes we just have to realize that point B will happen when point B happens, and right now we have point A. How do we just be here? Maybe we might be here better if someone just came and was to be with us. Who do you need to be with you today? Who might need you to be with them today? Chances are you can answer both those questions, and you can both allow someone to join you and be with you for a little while, but maybe there's somebody that needs you to go and just be with them too. No answers, no solutions, no recriminations, just be. Wherever you find yourself today, whether it's a joyous thing or the ash heap of Job, I pray that you will recognize the peace of knowing that you are not alone, that there is someone who is just being with you. God bless you. Have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow for Canada Day.